Name one flaw in The Godfather Part III. If you didn't have the balls to come up with anything beyond Sofia Coppola, then join the other critics who singled her out as a scapegoat, mainly because Sofia is the obvious answer. For a story that already had the Coppola family deeply embedded in it, and being all about family and coming to their rescue, with an emphasis on the family name, I find it ironic that fans couldn't accept Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, Sofia, as his ultimate choice. The Godfather Part III was riddled with flaws. Sofia's role is but one of the many problems we wish didn't plague Part III. Problems that wouldn't have gone away even if Sofia never played Mary. Let's see if we can do a better version of it. Blame could have been placed mostly on the convoluted script, Al Pacino's acting style, or a host of other things. But instead, it was heavily placed on Sofia. 30 years has passed since director Coppola's The Godfather Part III first premiered back in 1990. It's easy to talk smack about a movie when you're not the one dealing with the studio executives, or being told to work on a script in 6 weeks, and given a fraction of the budget you asked for. And then, of course, you never had to deal with a last-minute casting problem, all while enduring negative press hounding your decision throughout filming. The part of Mary Corleone was intended for Rebecca Schaeffer, a budding young actress who was murdered the day her script arrived at her doorstep. The role ended up in the hands of 18-year-old Sofia Coppola, who was visiting her father while on break from school. It's easy to blame the inexperienced teen for nearly destroying the film. Sofia was an easy target. I can't help but think, what majority of audiences didn't like Sofia simply because, well, everyone knew Winona Ryder was cast for the part of Mary after Schaeffer's murder, but unable to even join the cast during rehearsals. Because of a scheduling conflict, Winona Ryder ended up dropping out at the last minute due to health reasons. Now look at this for a second. When given something to compare to, a person can no longer accept the lesser option. That is exactly what I feel happened here. Everyone knew that the role of Mary was going to Hollywood's hottest young star. So when news spread that Sofia, an unknown and inexperienced actress, landed the role instead, Sofia, who also happens to be the daughter of the director, well, it left a bad taste in everyone's mouths. Never mind that Sofia actually sat in and read lines as Mary during rehearsals while Ryder was working on another movie. This, according to Andy Garcia in an interview with Insider back in 2020, as he recalled the events before filming. And never mind that Sofia didn't want to play the part, that her father desperately needed a replacement, and that Sofia saw it and stepped up to the plate, trying to help her dad out. Yeah, sorry, Sofia. No good deed goes unpunished. I could go on, but I won't. Let's just say that expectations were so high for Mr. Coppola to deliver a third part to a masterpiece he felt was already complete, that when the film failed to deliver, criticism was harsh. In 2020, IndieWire's Zach Sharf quotes Mr. Coppola's interview with the New York Times. They wanted to attack the picture when, for some, it didn't live up to its promise, and they came after his 18-year-old girl, who had only done it for me. The daughter took the bullet for Michael Corleone. My daughter took the bullet for me. Ultimately, I figured most people simply couldn't forgive Sofia's inexperience and the fact that she's the director's daughter. There were other actresses considered for the role, including Madonna. Perhaps critics would have been less harsh if Madonna had been cast. But then again, Madonna may be a legend in her own right, but acting was never her strength, in the same way that it was never Sofia's. It's something that perhaps both women did for the experience, but clearly not as a career choice. So 30 years of pinpointing Sofia's bad acting, to me, seems to be a general failure in hindsight. Although I myself have wanted someone more convincing as Vincent's love interest, I think Sofia's portrayal was exactly what Mary was, a teenage girl who was thrust into a grown-up world before it was time. That kind of girl would have been painfully awkward, desperately trying to fit in among the grown-ups, and naive about life. If anything, that uncertainty enabled her to portray Mary's awkwardness perfectly. And it was precisely because Sofia was not a seasoned actress that her screen time should have been cut by more than half. As for Winona Ryder, in all honesty, Even if Ryder had played Mary, the incest angle would have been questionable just the same, if not a bit unbelievable. Now, this might be a stretch, but was the incest angle a protest against the teachings of the church? The church that we later realized is in bed with the mafia? This leads us back to the bad script. The pointless incestuous relationship is only the start. There was the absence of Robert Duvall's character, Tom Hagen, who was completely written out of the script. He is represented by his son, Andrew, a priest, and somehow this is used as one of Michael Corleone's connections to the church. And Al Pacino's portrayal of Michael Corleone, he goes from a cool and calculated Don in the previous two films to some kind of temperamental drug lord. Although this may be attributed more to the change in Al Pacino's acting style rather than to a bad script. I talk about a drug lord who sounds just like that in this video. Then, of course, who can forget that ridiculous over-the-top mass murder scene? And finally, we're back to the entanglement of the mob with the Vatican Bank, where Don Corleone invests over $500 million but doesn't take an active role in the investment. It's incredible, in a bad way. I guess Coppola thought he should either go big or go home. My vote? Coppola should have gone home. And by that, I mean, the story should have been set stateside. Here's why. The entire Vatican Bank angle could have been represented by a bishop or an archbishop, and set in New York City instead. This change could have even helped cut the budget and brought Robert Duvall's Tom Hagen back into the story. But it seems Coppola chose to go big. What he got instead was an epic failure. Without Tom, the parts worth building were Vincent as the new Don, and Thalia Shire's Connie. Why Connie? Because in the 80s and 90s, there was a huge shift in the mafia. More women were secretly running the mob while their husbands were serving prison sentences. We could have Vincent take over the Corleone criminal empire, aided by Connie, on the one hand, while on the other hand, Michael tries to go legit, and to make up for his sins. But this time, it's with the help of the priest in the family, Tom Hagen's son Andrew. And yes, Andrew would be a poor substitute for Tom Hagen. But like Sofia Coppola and the rest of the cast, you work with what you've got. As for Michael's other problem, Joey Zaza, the helicopter massacre, would have been more believable if executed as several low-profile assassinations instead, just like in The Godfather Part I. As the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it were imperative that every Godfather movie maintain a Sicilian connection, then by all means, have Michael deal with Mary's death, surrounded by his visiting family as he lives out his last days in the old country. For a movie that was a bad third installment to a brilliant story, there is redemption, as well as a return to its beginnings. For one brief moment, I was brought back to The Godfather Part I when Vincent is about to be appointed the next Godfather, and is standing in front of a window, with its bright light creating a strong outline of his profile, while Michael is standing in the dark side of the room. That was classic. But the movie's redemption comes when Michael falls to his knees, torn apart by the brutal murder of his beloved Mary. That long, silent scream. If that wasn't a spectacularly soul-crushing scene, then maybe you should go and see if you've still got a pulse.